Good afternoon, and welcome to the Indiana Department of Transportation's Town Hall meeting for the fiscal year 2022 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program, commonly called the STIP by its acronym, and we will refer to it as the STIP here on out. My name is Jay Mitchell. I am the supervisor of the Indiana Department of Transportation's Technical Planning section, and we have a panel here tonight or this afternoon to join with us from INDOT. Roy Nunley will be doing a brief presentation, followed by a question and answer period. In addition to that, we will break the presentation from time to time to do a poll for those who are here today to gain some information about what's important to the people here today and what questions they may have. Michael McNeil is here. He is INDOT's STIP coordinator, and April Lecky is INDOT's programming manager, and she's responsible for the rather large data warehouse that feeds the STIP, and she also helps develop the STIP itself. And in addition to that, we have Brandon Bergoa here. Brandon he wears many hats at INDOT. He is our a transportation planner, but he's also the bicycle and pedestrian coordinator for the state of Indiana. He also works as sort of on a part-time basis as the scenic byway coordinator for the state of Indiana as well. So that is our panel tonight. We will start out tonight with a brief presentation, this afternoon rather, with a brief presentation, as I noted, and then we'll open the floor up to questions and answers. Our panel will do the best to answer those questions. And we are here tonight, this afternoon rather. Our primary purpose is really to open up the floor to the public so that they can have comments and provide input to us on the STIP itself. The STIP itself is published in draft form on our webpage, and Roy Nunley will explain that further. At this time, I'm going to turn the floor over, and we will probably discuss some of our ground rules with regard to how the meeting will work today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay. I am Maggie. I am going to serve as kind of co-facilitator today with Jay and the INDOT team. Before we begin our presentation, as Jay mentioned, we will have several opportunities for attendees to ask questions of the panelists as well as provide comments on the STIP. We do ask that everyone please be kind, courteous, and respectful of all of our attendees and panelists here today. If you have any questions of clarification of the content being shared, we strongly encourage those as well. Any disparaging or off-topic comments or questions will not be shared publicly, and we may remove you from the meeting. You can use our online Q&A tool if you've joined the WebEx events platform that way, or if you called in, you can also submit your comments via your phone and we'll unmute you to talk. In order to participate in the online Q&A, you can look on your panelist options at the bottom. You can click the three dots or expand your Q&A box to submit a question. Just type in your question or comment. You do have a 512 character limit, and then hit submit. When we get to those Q&A portions, we will read the question aloud and make sure that your question or comment is addressed. If you're on the phone, to get our attention, please press *3 to raise or lower your hand. And once we're in that Q&A session, we will be able to unmute you. You can give your question or comment, and then we will meet you just so then the panelists can respond to your comment or question. Some additional participant functions about our presentation today using the WebEx platform. It is being recorded. You may have heard that at the beginning, but all of these materials will be posted on INDOT's website for view during that 45-day comment period. Your microphone or line is muted upon entry. This is so we can make sure that everyone is heard and there's no background noise throughout the presentation and the Q&A panels. However, as I mentioned, if you are on the phone and you need to give a comment or question, raise your hand and our team will unmute you to let you know that you are being called upon. We will say some identifying factors of your phone number and let you know that you are free to give your comment. You're able to see all of our presenters that Jay introduced today. However, you're not going to see the participants' names and the other attendees just for privacy reasons. Don't worry, you're not the only one joining us for this call today. And as Jay introduced, we will also, in addition to these Q&A portions, be using a tool called menti.com in order to have some more engagement opportunities for you. It's a little hands-on. We know a presentation will break up some of that for you. So we're actually going to start out with menti.com to test it out. So if you're on your cell phone or on your computer, you can open a web browser and go to Menti, that's MENTI.com. And if you enter these codes, you'll be able to answer the first question in today's meeting. And that's how do you identify yourself and your interest in the STIP. So there's a few questions that you're able to, or responses you're able to select from, and just hit which one that best identifies what brings you here to our meeting today. I see some answers coming in. We have a few members of the general public, transportation professional coming in, member of an MPO, local, state, federal agency. Looks like we're getting some representation across the board. I will keep this question open for a little bit longer. We want you to share your responses with us, but also allow you to test out the tool for yourself while we get into the presentation a bit more. But I'm going to go ahead and pass things off to INDOT's Roy Nunnally. Roy?
Thank you, Maggie. So my name is Roy Nunnally. I'm the Director of Transportation Planning and Programming here at INDOT Central Office. First, I want to thank you guys for attending. Next, I would like to talk about that this is our second series of public involvement meetings. We had some in spring of this year. And the reason why we are reapproaching this is that we got a number of comments on our plan, our STIP, our draft STIP back in the spring of this year. And so we decided to delay the approval of this and adoption of the plan to address those concerns. So your voice does matter. So with that, what is the STIP? The STIP, known as the State Transportation Improvement Program, is a federally required planning and construction document. Our plan is 5 years. However, Federal Highway only recognized the first 4 years of that document. So that 5th year is considered illustrative to Federal Highway. The document lists all projects and project phases expected to be funded in the next 5 years using federal funds as well as state-funded projects that have been deemed regionally significant. Our program is based on a fiscal year. July, that usually runs and starts at July and runs through June 30th. And it includes all state and local projects funded, again, with federal highway or federal transit funding, along with 100% state-funded projects. This includes highways, passenger rail, public transit, bicycles, and pedestrian activities. So why is the STIP important? First off, it is a federal requirement for INDOT to have a STIP. And the STIP is a multi-stage, multi-year statewide intermodal program of transportation projects. It is typically coordinated with our MPO partners with their plans, which we have the Transportation Improvement Plan TIPS, which is similar to our STIP document, but more regional, and they have a little bit more details and some local information in those as well as is coordinated with their various planning projects. So some of their public outreach is also included in this coordination. We also coordinate with our regional planning organizations known as RPOs. And another key aspect of the STIP is that the STIP must be compatible with the MPO's Transportation Improvement Program TIP, which is TIPS, for the state's metropolitan areas. So what projects are in the STIP? We have a number of projects. So it's truly a intermodal document. We have with transit, typically is our operations. So you're paying for any operational needs for that transit provider. Using any federal transit funds, and the purchasing of vehicles using federal funds, such as passenger train cars or paratransit vehicles or buses. The projects that also included are, bridge type projects, from new bridges, bridge rehab, replacements, bridge maintenance activities, from inspections to bridge painting, to even debris removal from underneath the a bridge that has some type of waterway. It also includes small culverts and small structure, pipelinings and pipes. When we say small structure and culverts, these are fairly large pipes that are under our facilities for hydrology reasons. Also in the STIP are projects such as roadway projects such as added travel lanes, road reconstruction, resurfacing, bike and pedestrian activities. Some cases, trails that may be funded may be included into this document, as well as operational improvements, from intersection improvement, interchange modifications, traffic signal modernizations, and also intelligent transportation system. You have the dynamic messaging signs and those kind of things. It also includes safety improvements, from pedestrian amenities, crosswalks, for doing sidewalks, as long as we're using the federal funds, or these are significant regional projects. It also includes guardrails, railroad crossings, and slide corrections. So slide corrections is if it's on a kind of a roadway is on a terrain that there's a lot of rock slides, and we do address those. So I'll turn it back over to Maggie.
Thanks, Roy. So we have had a few questions pop in the chat. Before we switch over to those, I want to get us set up in our second Menti question, give you some time to think and put in some responses while we answer some of the questions we received in our chat. So again, going to menti.com on your mobile device, or open a new browsing window, and it's the same code as last time, 9598009. And you can answer what areas or projects in the STIP is the most important to you. And while I'll leave that up for a minute so you can get that code again if you need it, or you can always refresh if you still have your browser open from the last question. And I'm going to go ahead and start asking our panelists some of the questions we received, and so they can start answering those. So one of our questions mentioned about how much information the STIP has, and is curious if there's anything in it about some specific projects, including the governor's announcement of the Highway 231 improvements from last summer, as well as the Mid-States corridor. So wasn't able to find this information in the special projects section, so wanted to turn to Roy or Jay if you or the other panelists have any information on where to find information on specific projects, and if it's something the STIP can help with.
Hi, this is Jay. I will try to tackle this. First, the STIP was somewhat daunting. We agree. It's a large document when it comes to listing the projects and the phases for those projects. With regard to, I will tackle the Mid-States corridor first. Mid-States corridor will not currently show up in the STIP. It is currently going through an environmental assessment, actually environmental impact stage, a tier 1 environmental impact stage. Should this eventually move to a secondary tier 2 stage, that will be listed in the STIP to fund that as well. And then should there ever be projects that come out of the environmental, then later on they will come into the STIP itself. But as of right now, it has not, that concept has not yet progressed through the environmental stage. So therefore, there's no projects yet to program into the STIP itself. With regard to the 231 statement, sometimes there is a lag between announcements and actually programming activities in the STIP. More than likely, that's the case here, but I was trying to jog my memory because we do have a lot of announcements that come out about roadways. So if you could provide a little more information about which segment of 231, that would help us a lot, and I could probably get you the answer. And if we cannot get you an answer tonight or this afternoon, we will follow up and make sure we put an answer on our website and actually get your name and address and send it to you as well, if you'd be so kind as to submit that. So 231, I will need a little more information on. Roy, do you know any more about 231 than what I might be missing?
I do not, Jay. I thought you answered the question. So the more information we find out, we can get that information to that person asking that question.
We did have another question here. Maybe we'll go ahead and tackle that if we may. I'll let Roy
Yeah,
answer that one.
we have a few other questions we can move along. And like Jay mentioned, if your question wasn't answered or you have additional information to provide, there will be several opportunities throughout the presentation with contact information on how to leave comments and questions on the STIP after this meeting. So we did receive a question about the slides being available after the webinar. We did share that they will along with the recording. Jay, is there anything you would like to add about that?
I'll
No.
answer that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that is correct. It will be available. We will have those available tomorrow online. Typically, we try to have those available after our last meeting. So today, tonight at 6 o'clock will be our last virtual meeting for this session, and then we will put those recordings and the presentations online for the public to review and access.
Thank you, Roy. I believe similar with that, someone asked to share the information on where people can go on INDOT's website to view the STIP as well as leave comments and questions.
Yes, we will get through that in the slides. There's a session in the slide deck that will show you where to go, and then also how to access that, and then how do we process those comments. So very good question.
We received another question that Roy, you talked about doing a second round of STIP meetings. So what kind of public feedback did the team receive in spring that justified delaying the STIP approval? And are there any consequences for the missed deadline?
Yes, so we received a number of comments from where there was some challenges with some of the project listings that did not match with our partners, our metropolitan planning organizations listing, whether that's phase, cost, or what have you. Some of the comments that we received, and maybe Jay and Michael can jump in there when I address this one, but so a lot of those changes we needed to address legally before our federal partners could approve the document for us to make it the official a document for our use. So we decided to delay the activities, delay our submittal to address these issues and to fully refresh the project listing, and also to ensure that we address some comments and issues specifically to public involvement. So that's where we are with that. As far as some other comments and questions that we have, Michael, I'm not sure if you can kind of narrow 2 or 3 comments that we received from the document in our last series of public meetings. Michael may not be on the panel. Jay, would you be able to
Well, I'm
recall?
thinking right now, I've been thinking about that when you spoke. You pretty much covered the primary reason why we decided to hit the pause button. But there were also some concerns that were issued by or listed by some of the public about the outreach itself, whether we had done an adequate job. So we did reassess that, and we have made some improvements to address that kind of comment. And that's one of the reasons we're here today, is because we wanted to make sure we did a thorough job reaching out to the public, letting them know what's going on with their tax dollars with regard to the highway system and to the rail system and also to the transit system. And that's why we hit the pause button. We thought we could have moved ahead at that time, but it would have been, in our opinion, somewhat of a disservice. The document did have some errors in it that we had missed before, and we thought it was best to hit the pause button, correct those errors, come back to the public, and then submit a more complete and thorough document to Federal Highway, our partners in this process, so that we actually ease the burden on their part when they review the documents. So that's pretty much it. The key thing for us primarily, though, Roy, as you noted, was in more than one case, we did have issues where a project that was listed in the STIP did not match the MPO's TIP itself. And there is a requirement that we incorporate the MPO's TIP by reference, meaning whatever project is listed in the TIP with regard to an Indiana, one of our projects, meaning INDOT's projects, it has to match one for one. There can be no errors. And we did have a few errors. So we've corrected those and we're moving forward. Thank you.
And then the last part of that question was the ramifications of that delay. And so for us, really it's more of a challenge with, ongoing projects, so there's, when we're amending the document, there's some requirements that need to be met. Right now, we are making amendments to our current STIP document, which is the 2020 through 2024 documents. And then also some ramifications is that because our document, as we talked before, is a 5-year document, that 5th year is considered illustrative. So as we're getting those new projects from our transportation planning partners, we can only go as far as 2024 to put into our document at this stage, because anything beyond that 2025 and 2026 is considered illustrative. So it did create some challenges, but we're trying to mitigate those challenges to ensure there's not much project delays. We've had some issues with a few projects across the state that were delayed almost 6 months because there was a requirement for their environmental document had to be linked to this STIP, and because it wasn't amended or was in their current STIP with the incorrect work category code, that project couldn't move forward. So we're trying to minimize that, make sure that we're coordinating, communicating with our MPO partners and our project managers. So thank you for your question.
Thank you, Jay and Roy. We're gonna wrap up this Q&A part real quick here. I did want to let you know we did receive some clarification on that 231 segment. It is for around Jasper, Indiana. And then we also received contact information from that participant. So we can pass that along and follow up with that participant. And we do have a member of the Columbus City Plan Commission and former member of the Columbus Area MPO, who's looking for a bit more information on the relocation of State Road 11 in Columbus going south of Columbus in Garden City, if the project team has anything to share about that.
I don't have any information directly, and unfortunately, we also don't have one of our district representatives there online on our panel, but we can definitely get your information and that question and get that get an answer to you.
Thanks, Roy. Before I pass it back to Roy to continue on with the next part of the presentation, do want to remind you, you can continue to leave questions in our chat box as we move along through the presentation. And I wanted to just share some of the responses we received onto this Menti poll. We did a lot of responses about what kind of projects and areas of the STIP you're most interested in. We received a lot for both Central Indiana and Southern Indiana, so it seems like we're well represented in those parts of the states here today. Someone's interested in all the projects, which is great to hear. Interest about Hoosier Air Transport, some improvements and projects related to ADA requirements and enhancing transportation for individuals with disabilities, bicycle and pedestrian projects, lots of things all over. So thank you again for your participation in that poll. And Roy, I pass it off to you to go into how the STIP is developed.
Thanks, Maggie. So how is the STIP developed? So it's important to note that our STIP is developed on a 2-year cycle and is typically amended monthly. Now we are looking at strategies to not make it monthly, because to amend the STIP is usually a 45-day comment period. So when we are doing it monthly, we're kind of overlapping, and if there's any snags or anything like that, it creates like a bottleneck. So we're thinking about every other month, and that will help with some of the resource planning and ensuring that we keep everything on track. But Indiana has both a decentralized and a centralized programming process in the development of our STIPs. So projects are submitted by our 6 district offices through a statewide asset management process. They are submitted through the public, typically through our metropolitan planning organizations or rural planning organizations and INDOT districts, and also as far as the asset team that I just discussed, on the right you see a graphic that kind of shows the 4 asset teams that we have that are in orange. We have the bridge asset teams, we have the roadway asset teams, and the roadway asset team is responsible for what we call geotech, where there's rock slides or there's geometric deficiencies, meaning that the road is, when you're traveling down the road, it's difficult for you to have a sight distance, like what's over a crest of a hill, which could be a cyclist or a non-motorized user or stopped vehicle, or sharp curves and things of that nature. So they do the pavement resurfacing, those type of activities in the roadway asset teams. In the mobility asset team, they handle everything from modernized traffic signals to new road construction, added travel lanes, roadway operational improvements, and also our intelligent transportation system. So the dynamic messaging signs, and also data collection for that, to serve that purpose. And then our last group, but surely not least, will be the safety asset team. And they cover a wide range of activities, from sometimes it's related to bike and pedestrian safety. That can also include road resurfacing, when you're looking at friction factors, enhanced friction factors for the roadway, so it's not as slick when they're wet or even dry. And usually within the safety asset team, they also include activities that are funded through certain funding programs, like the Highway Safety Improvement Program. And I also want to mention that in the mobility asset team, they're also responsible for our non-motorized travel planning as well. Those 4 groups report to what we call the program management group, which are made up of directors, from our technical service directors to our program project management directors to our finance and others. So, and their job is to make sure that all the decisions made out of these asset teams, that we are trying to accomplish a goal. They are also responsible for determining what funds go to which asset groups and how much. But it's also important to know that, you know, the asset teams, each asset teams are made up of district professionals, as well as central office professionals. For example, they may have a system assessment manager who's responsible to do a lot of technical analysis. They may have a planning representative. They may have an environmental representative in each one of those groups. And so how this works is that the districts are responsible for the annual call and submitting and determining projects by fiscal year. And so the districts prioritize their project, you know, based on their district needs. And when they submit that to these asset groups, the asset groups are responsible for determining more of a statewide prioritization. And then once that is determined, you know, we get the funding levels from our program management groups. Then they come up with a listing of projects that needs to move forward. So that's kind of how that all ties together. But as far as once all that is done, the STIP is approved by our federal highway and FTA partners. This is another illustration to kind of show how the STIP is developed. Typically, you see the dates on here, you know, from November to March. Typically, we start this process in the fall every other year. But this go round, since we were you know, this was our second round, you know, we started, you know, I believe it was more so in July, August. But typically what ends up happening at the start of the process, that we draft a list of proposed projects. So we do a pool of our system, and then at that stage, we start coordinating with our Mpo partners with their tips. And so we're going back and forth, coordinating what's in our STIP, what's in our pool of our projects, and what's in their STIP. And then at that stage, at the same time, we're starting to look at some of the verbiage in the STIP, some of the performance targets, and that may be, you know, what % of bridge are going to be functioning at this level of operations. You know, what are some of the congestion spots? You know, so a lot of different funding, a lot of different performance targets are also considered, and then also the funding. So at that stage, we start constraining the project listing, and then things move from there. Once we get the verbiage and the funding list and everything together, we start the 45-day comment period where we take this draft document, publish it online. We set up meetings, whether there's in-person meetings or virtual meetings, you know, now given the, you know, post-COVID or COVID activities. And so once that 45-day comment period is up, then we start processing comments and making the revisions to the document in itself. And then when we get what we call a final draft, and that is submitted to our federal highway and FTA partners for their review, input, and hopefully approval. As far as how the STIP fits in with all of our other INDOT plans, so, you know, we start off at the top where we have, you know, kind of the longer term plans, you know, 20 to 25, 30 years out. So we have the multimodal freight plan that looks at everything from truck freight to rail freight to aviation freight to marine freight. And they have projects in corridors identified that are bottleneck, congestion areas that need to be addressed. And so they may have strategies listed in that document. And then we also have our long range transportation plan document. And that document is not project specific. It is a federal required document, but it goes out 20 to 30 years into the future. And so we look at things such as trends, needs, issues, technology, and then how we plan on addressing those and what our transportation needs are going to be. And then we also have kind of a funded aspect of our long range plan. and this is called the 20-year Next Level Indiana. This is our Governor Holcomb's plan. It's called Next Level Roads. It is a sustainable 20-year planning document that starts in 2018 to fund roads and bridges. This plan outlines about $60 billion in total investments to Indiana's highway. Again, it is fully funded, and for our state maintained roads and bridge. And also part of that includes about $342 million annually for local roads. That starts that by 2024 for many of our Indiana cities and small towns. Now, what we have to the right is the Next Level Roads interactive map. So one thing I do want to mention that not all projects are included in our STIP. Our STIP includes projects that are federally funded or regionally significant state-funded projects. But not all projects are listed in the STIP. In the Next Level Roads, the interactive map, it includes various projects, including those in a 20-year list as well. And it includes active projects, it includes future projects broken out by bridge, safety, what's local, what's a roadway project, and you can, display it by project type, by district, and essentially you can click on any of the nodes in this tool, and it will drill down and bring you up additional information. So please check that out. All you need to do is just type in Next Level Roads Indiana, and it will direct you to that site. How do you get involved in the planning process? We encourage our partners and our citizens to get involved early in the project discussions, early, frequently, and strategically. So a lot of times, because we're thinking such in long-term, some of our planning, may not, there's some participation, but there's, limited knowledge on how to comment and get involved on longer-term strategies. But for the STIP, that's, within the 4 or 5 year time frame. So if you are in a metropolitan area and, you can work through your Metropolitan Planning Organization or MPO, MPOs have regular public technical policy board meetings and discussions. And again, these are open to the public. They do participate and coordinate with Indiana DOT annually, typically in March and July, but we're running behind this year. And the MPOs relay feedback to INDOT, whether that's the INDOT district or the central office, as to needs, comments, land use changes, funding concerns, and priorities. And so they tend to have more local information on the planning needs. So it's real, if you are in an MPO area, that is a true resource to get involved early in the entire process. Also, if you're in a rural area and that's not covered by MPO, you can work through our regional planning organizations. And so they also provide input and a service to us. And so we'll talk more about what those groups do. But the public is notified of the STIP review and comment period in multiple ways, from social media to media release to legal notifications, listservs, and others. You can get on our listserv by just basically, we'll talk about some of those links as well. I think there was a question and comment earlier. And on that, on our sites, you can review and comment on the draft STIP. So right now, because we're doing a full STIP update, there's the 45-day comment period every 2 years, but also we revise and amend the document, monthly or every other month. And there's also an opportunity for you to review and provide your comments, as there's a 7-day comment period when we publish those draft documents. So with the STIP, you can also get engaged in what you're doing now is the public meetings. You can provide comments in this meeting. We got 4 virtual meetings scheduled. We've already gone through 2, so this is our 3rd one. We have our last one tonight at 6 o'clock. There we will have Northern District representation. So when you have more project-specific questions, we will be able to hopefully get some information to you within that site. Again, these meetings will be recorded and available online. Presentations also will be made available online, so you can access the document, the draft STIP document, the slides, the video recordings, and other information at that site. And also, we are partnering with our state and local library, over 236 local libraries, where we've provided flyers for them to post, and it has information about the STIP, how to get engaged, where to go. So there's a QAR code you can scan with your phone, and it'll take you to those appropriate sites. But documents and comment forms can be found on www.in.gov /INDOT, INDOT, /3132.htm. Or you can email or mail us. So if you want to email comments on the draft STIP, you can email them to draftstip, one word, at indot.in.gov. Or you can mail in. We still do receive mail. You can mail in your comments to INDOT STIP coordinator Michael McNeil at 100 North Senate Avenue, room N758. And that's in our Indianapolis central office. And our zip code is 46204. And please understand, your voice matters. So when we get comments received through INDOT, through our STIP comment forms, or we also have a site called INDOT for You. That one you can go for anything that's on your mind. I think it's manned or covered 24 hours a day. They always have someone that can address your questions. And so that's our centralized link. And when comments are received through them, they are routed to the right person. So if it's a STIP comment or project-specific comment, it goes to the right district, to the right person, and you will get a response. So your voice do matter, as you mentioned before. When we had comments, we had to make changes to our document. Comments and responses are documented and coordinated through the agency's communications division. The same for the INDOT for You, they handle that as well. And they document those comments and make sure that you're getting consistent answers, but also, again, to make sure that they're getting to the correct people. Comments received from this 45-day comment review period will be included, they will be processed and will be included in the appendices of the final STIP document that we will be submitting to Federal Highway for approval. Comments received also from the STIP amendment 7-day comment period will also be documented, addressed, and included in the revised STIP version appendices. So again, please provide your comments. Your voice matters. And I turn it back over to Maggie.
Thank you, Roy. As we are talking about the different districts and MPOs, RPOs coming up, we do want to kind of see who is on our call today. So if you pull up menti.com again, use that code 9598009. You'll be able to submit your zip code. This is so we can kind of see who's all over. Like Roy showed, we've had a few meetings where we've had Central District representative, Northern this evening, Southern was on Tuesday, and this is the statewide meeting. So we've seen some through our comments that we have representative all over the state, but we want to make sure we're reaching as many people as possible. So while you start inputting those answers, we did receive a couple of questions come through during this portion. For the project team's awareness, we did receive a comment from a participant who's interested in projects around Columbus. If you have any response for that one.
If you have projects specific around Columbus, one, you can go through our STIP documents, probably the easiest way. I think Columbus is at Bartholomew County, but you can do a county search and what's in our STIP. That's probably the easiest way to look for that. The second part of that will be to use the Next Level Roads project app. So type in Indiana Next Level Roads, and it'll bring you to the interactive map. And you can zoom into your area and click to see what projects that we have that are active, and then what projects that are listed in the 20-year plan that are future. And also you can get access to, if there's community crossings, which is a program where there's dedicated funds at the local level. If there's those type of projects, you can also see what those are as well.
Thank you, Roy. You mentioned during your presentation some of the items that are included in the STIP. We did have a question that asked what is bridge painting, if you can explain what that is briefly, as well as address why sometimes it can be a bit more expensive. So there's a question about the price of bridge painting for a specific contract of the I-465 east of 65 here in Indianapolis, costing about $6.7 million.
Jay, do you have any response for that?
Here's what I think is happening. And yes, bridge painting, when you see that description, it basically applies to the bridge itself, painting the bridge, which would require us to, in many cases, hire a firm to sandblast the bridge, make minor repairs to the bridge if needed, and then repaint the bridge. And that's primarily it. 6.7 million seems a little high, obviously. And I did see that a contract number was referenced. So what I think is happening here is we list projects in the STIP by two forms, actually dual forms. One is by contract, and one is by something we call DES number, DES, which I think stands for designation from years back. So a DES number will be a project that it's very specific to that DES. However, that DES could be part of a contract, and a contract could carry many different subcontracts or DES numbers or little projects within it that would all add up to quite a bit of money. So when that, in our automated system, when it grabs that bridge painting listing, it will probably grab the contract figure, which would probably entail more than just the bridge painting on that bridge. It may have some other bridges involved. It may have some other issues with regard to that bridge, and bridge painting is part of it. It could be that we're going to redeck the bridge. In addition to that, since we're there, we're going to go ahead and do the maintenance on the painting since we're already there and closing traffic for that. And that would show up as under the same contract, and that could well explain it. But what we'll do is follow up a little bit on that one, and we will get you the answer as well to make sure that I'm not making something up. But I think that's what's going on here.
Thanks, Jay. We also received a comment from a participant mentioning that old US 31 in Taylorsville has some drainage problems as well as potholes, and they would like to submit the comment to have some attention on this road.
Well, we appreciate the comment. It's not necessarily directly related to a project in the STIP. That would be more along the lines of maintenance. So we will pass the comment along to our district with regard to this area in Taylorsville, and one, assess what's going on and see and let them know that there are complaints and that they should be dealt with. When we say old US 231, always flags something for me in that sometimes, and I don't know the case on this particular roadway in Taylorsville, sometimes a roadway will be listed as old such and such, and it may no longer be a part of the INDOT system. But I don't know about this particular segment, so we'll find out first. And in any event, our customers identified some problems with that roadway with regard to maintenance. We will pass that along and try to follow up to see that some maintenance is taken care of through either INDOT or someone else if someone else is responsible. Thank you.
I will also suggest that, if you go to INDOT for you and submit that concern, you will get a response back. And a lot of times they will send someone out to take a look at that and give a response back to you. I've heard some really great things with INDOT for you and then how they process the comments. And then they can also look to see if there's others that have submitted similar concerns. So INDOT for you, just type it into your web browser, and you should be able to report your concern directly.
Thank you, Roy. But since our customer has already brought that up to us at this meeting, we will take the initiative and follow up with our folks and get that moving as far as an answer. Yes, under normal circumstances, a good way to find information out if you have a situation like this, an excellent way is to type in the request through INDOT for you, or even make a call to our customer service station, and they will follow up as well. But since this was brought up in our meeting, we'll go ahead and follow up with that if you don't mind, Roy.
Sure.
Thank you both. I do want to pass it back over to Roy here real quick, since we are getting to the top of the hour. Thank you all for participating in the Minty. Just wanted to share that we have some good representation all over the state. Saw some responses from Bloomington, Anderson, Fishers, and some of the other Indianapolis suburbs, Taylorsville. Also, state police representing my neighborhood, east side of Indianapolis. So Roy, I will pass it back to you for the remaining part of your presentation.
Right. So the last part of this presentation, we're going to talk about some of our partners. And so the district office, public involvement. So the district has, INDOT has a total of 6 districts across the state. And the district serves as the front line in terms of coordination with our various stakeholders and local officials. So the district knows what's going on in the area. They are also responsible for more of the short-term planning and the annual call for projects for their district area, which starts typically I believe in July of each year and ends in January, by January, I think the 15th. So they also are responsible for local coordination, project management, and construction activity. The districts are responsible for submitting needs as well, identifying submitted needs, not only for the annual call for projects, but also identifying what's in our 10-year process and then what's in our STIP as well, transition to our STIPs. And then they also, the districts and program managers also will work with their Mpo partners in areas for TIP amendment activities. And they also participate and are grafted on the Mpo technical advisory committees and boards. So they participate in those meetings and public hearings as well. This is where you can get in contact with your district. So we have some information as to if you're looking at Crawfordsville District, there's a link there and an address. I know that we said we had 6, and there's 7 things displayed, and one is the central office. And so if you had something that you wanted to send to our central office, there's all the contact information and where to send things. Our Mpo partners are also considered our frontline partners. We have 14 Mpos across the state. Mpos are policy boards of organizations created and designed to carry out metropolitan transportation planning process. A lot of the process that Mpos do are federally required, and so they're very important agencies. They serve as a forum for local governments to provide short and long-term plans and to address related concerns in their areas. And again, their short-range plan would be their Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP. And they're also responsible for their long-range plan. So the Mpos in the state has their long-range transportation plans that we talked about before. and the MPOs have theirs as well. So together with the INDOT districts, they serve as a primary source of local input and are very a fundamental coordination with our multimodal planning partners and program implementation. Our next group is we mentioned is our regional planning organizations. We have about 15 across the state. MPOs or RPOs serves as the transportation planning needs for the small and rural areas of the state, and they perform a lot of eligible planning activities to support local communities on behalf of INDOT as well. So their planning activities, RPOs are aimed at supporting, INDOT central and district offices as far as transportation planning. So they're involved in some of the regional meetings and discussions. So again, if you're in those areas, you can work through them as well. And that's one way to get involved in the process. Thank you very much for your patience and time, and I will turn this back over to Maggie.
Thanks, Roy. I know we're at the end of our time here, so we wanted to leave you with one last Minty question just to rate how you felt today's information was, if it was helpful, very helpful, or if it wasn't so helpful. We hope that you would contact the INDOT team in one of the ways that Roy and Jay have shared to help us develop these materials for next time to better communicate this information. We did have a participant with their hand raised. It now has a check. I did want to see Zach Ellison. I can unmute you if you have a question to ask the panel. So Zach, you are unmuted if you were indeed intending to raise your hand to ask a question.
No, I'm good right now, so thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Okay, if there are any last minute questions, you can add them to the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to pass it over to Jay for some closing remarks.
Jay, you're on mute.
Sometimes it's best that way. I would like to thank everybody for attending this meeting this afternoon for the FY22 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program for the Indiana Department of Transportation. While behind the scenes, I've been copying down all of the questions, and I will make sure that all of those questions are answered, and we will also probably put that in the public record for the STIP itself. So please be aware that your questions will be answered. And if you have further questions, if you've forgot about something or you had something on your mind but there wasn't time to get it in, please go ahead and submit a comment on our website for the STIP itself, and we will definitely get that answered, and it will be part of the official record. Again, once again, for attending today. We hope this was beneficial to you. Thank you very much.